Shalom, family. Glory be to God, and blessed be the Lamb. In a country that has broken down along tribal lines, yet bind alliances on a capitalistic level as far as making money, while at the same time attempting to maintain culture, creed, cultural perspectives about life, others, understandings. And this would be termed natural, I guess, in a country of migrants. That's what it is, a country of migrants. So I don't understand. In a tribalistic culture, and by the word culture, American culture, if there be such a thing, why is it that foundational Black Americans, that word, and del- delineation drives people insane? You do understand that this is by design, right? It's not a political movement. It's by design. It is scripture. See, it's like I told you before, it doesn't matter what you believe about the Bible. It only matters what I believe and God believe and those who would consider themselves adherents to the Bible believe. Everyone else, your belief is really irrelevant. Your disbelief doesn't cause anything. Neither does it stop anything. The only one who have to believe are those who already believe. This is scriptural. And again, keep in mind, you don't have to believe it. Not in the Bible and not in God. But but what you should believe in is what your eyes show you. And what they're showing you is that there are millions and millions of adherents to those very words contained in Holy Scripture. Do they, should they care what you believe? The short answer is no, and they don't. But what's relevant to that, again, with you not wanting to believe, is that what foundational Black Americans, i.e., the Negro, are the people of the book. Prophecy will be fulfilled. And there's absolutely nothing anyone or no group of people or no nation can do to stop it. Absolutely nothing. You may make things worse and stress yourselves out, but nothing will change. It will still come. It will still come. How did we end up with words like I hate this word, delineate. Gee, it's hard on the tongue. But how did this come into play? Where was it coined? Who was the first to speak it and why? Let's get to the why part first. We really don't care to mention names. Some say that person, others say this person. And for me, it is just a description, a, a definition of something that was already there. When, and I'm going to drift a little bit, can we just be honest? Are we not already there in a way vis-a-vis foundational Black Americans? And I'm going to explain that term in a few minutes. But have not we? Not only are we there, but we've always been there. When have this country ever allowed what is termed now foundational Black Americans to be a part of this country? When? What year? When have we been treated like Americans with full rights and privileges and the benefits like anyone else? When? But I'm starting to understand why. And quite frankly, it is because most of these European cultures or European based cultures have histories of racism themselves. And then they all immigrate here. I think that the hatred of the black man specifically and black people generally just runs in their blood culturally. In fact, I know it. They will believe a learned behavior, a learned thought taught to them by their fathers and mothers, no matter how much the reality changes or the dynamic shift. That's when I start to think they're mostly mentally ill. Reality doesn't lie. Eh, Truth doesn't lie. Maybe every now and then your eyes do lie, and your mouth always lies. Like now, you just tell yourself. And anyway, I won't complete the statement because that would be just pure speculation. I know not how your thought process how your thought processes work as you look at the reality of the situation and you keep trying to act as though the reality is going to change when it's self-evident that it is not. And that makes you crazy. You do understand that, right? But then my understanding is that 50% of America is on some psychotropic drug at any given moment. You haven't even gotten to the street level psychotropic drugs, if you know what I mean. But there they are, functionally, ah, fill in the blank. But how did that word come into play? It came into play politically because FBA had figured out that they were getting nowhere. They were getting nowhere because of political leadership. And then this being a immigrant country, they also found out that most of the leadership was non-FBA. Pretty much all of the Congressional Black Caucus was at any given point over at least the last 20 years. But who knew? No, why no one knew? Because we kept using the word black and we allowed others to use the word black, and we allow white supremacists with their native born hatred, also known as Southern redneck cracker. Y'all better be careful of those guys. They would just as soon drag your ass behind the truck by a rope. But you know what we say, catch one, kill one. At any rate, that's a bit off the beaten path. At any rate. So that that would be the humble origins or the motivations rather behind the word itself. It was a political move, yes. A sociological move, no, but and a spiritual move accidentally. Accidentally. Just so happens at the very time that on a political and sociological, as in social media, not in sociology, not as in sociology, but as in social media, as you would know, um, it was helpful because biblically they are meant to separate from the rest of the world. You get it? Separate. One third, one third of them shall go with the Lord, and two thirds will remain with you. It's funny how everything plays out, though. It's funny how everything plays out, and I can see how one would be upset because I can be blunt. I can be blunt, but I would rather tell the truth. I would rather tell the truth. Your emotions heal in the face of it, though. I mean, it's gonna come crystal clear to you anyway. And at some point, you will bend to the truth. At some point. So it was never meant as a sociological term. It became that because of the rest of society. But I ask again, at what point in this country's existence have black people, FBAs, also known as the Negro, been allowed to take part in what is America? Will someone give me a year? Every city that they built, they burned down. Every town burned down or buried in water, massacres everywhere. I mean, at what point was this not already so? So, I mean, so basically, because it's been given a name, it's been given a name, it is now upsetting. It is now being what's that word? Equivocated to such words that as the FBA is like the KKK. Foundational Americans, that word, I think it evolved later, but from the same genesis, separation. Separation, not because one wanted to, but because one must. One must. And and exactly again, I must ask this question: at what point, at what juncture in this country have my people ever been allowed to take place in its benefits and privileges, its largesse, its riches, when we were already there, treated as the other? Can we just be clear? No one did this in your own cultures. I mean, most of you, uh, most of you can't point to one thing in your feeble lives that anyone black has ever done anything personally unto you or your kinfolk or your businesses. It comes built in. Maybe you should deal with you. But while uh, you have decided that that shit is normal to walk around with that kind of feeling in your heart and in your spirit, which is going to eventually land your ass spiritually in front of the very thing that you hate the most, blackness. Blackness. I mean, what I mean is everything inside that Bible, except the people who Jesus bumped into, like the Philistines and so on and so forth. I don't want to call them by name, but outside of that, everything, I mean, is black, including Jesus. That the hatred of black is going to send the lot of you to hell, to hell. Look for you, you don't have hanging over your heads the murder of the first one, huh? I was at it, speaking of that, of the first one. Man, some people can be so crass and bold in a controlled environment. I was off of a Rankin Road, well, not Rankin, Ritchie Road. And there's a Denny's. You can walk through the Denny's and into a gas station. Now, I've ordered my food from Denny's and I decide, of course, I want some cigarettes. So as I walk in, you know what this guy says? As my spirit lit up the area and their spirits all started feeling strange, he said, that's why we killed the first one. Now, this was a white guy, and I will, you put that burden down. You had nothing. You as a white guy or your fathers or your father's fathers or your father's fathers or your father's 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 fathers had anything to do with killing Jesus. No, 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 no. You are only the mechanism. Actually, it was people who looked exactly like him. They were the reason. They were they were the genesis. They were the motivating force. They were the ones who insisted that Pontius Pilate, the judge or governor, at at that time, do something about it. And when the honorable judge asked him, well, what crime has he committed against Rome or thee? They could point to nothing. They could point to nothing. And they screamed, well, he says he is the Son of God. Well, I stand here today and say, I am the Son of God. Come toward me with a burning cross, a cross, a crown of thorns, or anything else that you may have in your mind relevant to Jesus and black people and crucifixions and religion, and I'm probably going to kill your ass. In fact, I'm pretty fucking sure I'm just going to kill you. I can guarantee it. Yeah, now that I thought about it properly, I'm pretty sure I'm just going to kill your ass. Unless you stop me from killing your ass. Same difference. Same difference. I abhor hate. I abhor a lot of shit. I really believe that God the Almighty is the only one who should ever hate, because you ain't created shit. Neither did you. Neither did you. In fact, you're just lucky to be here. You, I mean, if you want to think of yourself as elements in a random order of events, then that's what you are. Elements in the random order of events. You know what that means? Absolutely nothing. Exactly. You're absolutely fucking nothing. Passing through life and then dying, making babies, eat up food, taking up space, taking up resources, and then die. You will not change anything. You will not fix anything. You will not define anything. You shall not solve anything, and you shall not invent anything. You get where I'm going with this? You get where I'm going with this? I'm sure you do, and now half of you feel insulted, but you know that this is the truth. What does this have to do with FBAs and alienation? Probably absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. And while, man, let's get back to it though. Politically, why was it necessary? Well, we watched the Democratic Party decade after decade after decade bless everyone except its core guaranteed voter base. Guaranteed voter base made up of millions. I never understood it because I'm a child of the political pimp of the, of the pimping politician or port pastor and port pimp and port politician. Here's what I mean. Here's for you believers. I'm gonna show you how to, man, listen, please don't be insulted. But when I was a boy, almost every household I went in was would get this kind of mail. It was mail that would say, I can save you. If you send me some money, I will send you a prayer cloth. Now, I started reading shit earlier. Man, I'm smart for a fucking reason. I was reading everything. I mean, everything. You name it, I was reading it. If you left anything down, I wouldn't give a damn. It's getting read. The back of food cans, the ingredients, the shit underneath your cabinets. Shit, I would go into other people's cabinets and start reading shit. I just had to know everything. But now I finally understand why, because you are fickle. You think you're that way, and you think you're that way, and you think you're that way, and you think you're that way, but no one ever fucking questions why. Because you're made. You are made. You're made by your mama, and you're made by your daddy, and you're made by your peers, and everybody is you but fucking you. Oh, that's none of my business. That's none of my business. Sooner or later, everyone comes face to face with themselves, but I've seen them o- old. And man, listen, you know what's sad about that? Is that's when you're forced to do it, when you're old. So may I suggest that you just do some self-reflection right now, rather than be forced to do it. eh, You age, if you be so lucky. If you be so lucky. Anyway, democratic politics inside of a democracy existing inside of a corporate structure masquerading as a government when it's really a corporation. I mean, things can get a little bit confusing. Confusing. I can see this. But the bullshit starts starts at the top. Now, let's look at the Democratic Party. And I don't have a lot of time left. I got about 15 minutes. Let's look at your Democratic Party. What have they done? What have they done? I'm sorry, folks. I haven't forgotten about you guys. But right now, I got to focus on these guys and those guys. Now, what have the Democratic done for you? Now, hold that thought while I finish this goddamn story about the man. I would read these letters, and they always wanted money. A pastor this, a pastor that, this church, that church. And they would get this mail, and in return for the money, they would receive this square piece of purple velvet cross cloth. And I found that strange because I thought it would be a much bigger cloth. But that's where the lie began. That's where the lie began. I guess that it started out as, I guess, a 12 by 12 a cloth maybe, and they chopped it into 2 inch by 2 inch pieces. You know, it made it look neat with a zigzag cut. Made it look nice. Cost them less than 5 cents. Less than 5 cents. And in return, thousands of dollars. Thousands of dollars. And they believed, but their lives never got better. Never got it better. God never gave them anything based on based on their the donations or their tithes or their givings to some foreign million a pastor, and they would do it on a TV. 3 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, screaming their religious asses off as they collect everybody's money. Weird, huh? Don't feed the poor. Don't help the sick. Don't help the needy. Yet they're there, masquerading like pastors and reverends and all of these different freaking labels. Man, just stop. You are deluding yourselves. You are deluding yourselves. But listen, what has what have the Democratic Party done for black people? FBAs. I mean, if we just being real, we have already established, I hope that foundation of black Americans have never taken part in this country. What you did is made agreements with segments of with two separate segments of Black America. The immigrant Black American and these breakaways from us. They're largely educated, Western educated, with degrees, and we'll leave that right there. But if we're just being straight, you also call them the middle class, which they don't seem to not understand is a fiction. It was the middle class was made up. Capitalism does not create a middle class. This is why the only people who are eating right now and paying their bills on time and properly are those who work for the very same government who write policy, legislate law, write to promulgate a policy state for state, city for city, hamlet for hamlet, town for town. It's the very same other people. This is just a reality that no one wants to talk about. Everyone else is struggling. I just told my brother this morning, for the hell of it, I'm just gonna go steal something. I don't know what. Maybe a steak, maybe. I mean, some air freshener, just to piss him off. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I got to get. I mean, somehow I got to get in the game here. Everyone else is stealing. Everyone else is stealing. Anyway, that's a different argument. That is a different argument. Just understand that there's a reason for everything, and it's funny that I knew 2 years ago, 3 years ago, that this in some variation is where we would be. For the third time, back to the Democratic Party. What have they done for us? And when I say us, I mean you, as the FBA in the South, especially in the South, but nationwide, politically. What exactly have they done? Hmm? I, I know what they have done. I mean, what have they done to help you? You. It was a Democratic Party that administered or managed the gentrification of your neighborhoods. They were right there, right there. They didn't try to stop it. They caused it. They voted for it. They wanted it. And do you know what? They knew full well of the outcome be, before they did it. And they did it anyway. How has it harmed you? How has it harmed you? Destabilization, relo, re, relocation, a dislocation, increased poverty, increased prison. You haven't even gotten to the indirect um, manifestations of the increase in poverty, which leads to an increase in despair. You haven't even gotten to the murders, and I mean, goodness gracious, you haven't even gotten to the homicides against FBA in this country on a daily basis. All of this is because of Democratic policy, and the same politicians want to maintain the status quo as you're dying by the very same status quo. Incident after incident after incident in this city alone, meaning Houston, and not one of your politicians have said one word. Murder after murder, incident after incident, all of it race-based. I mean, by race-based, I mean cultural, because it has nothing to do with race. It has everything to do with culture. It has nothing to do with race as you would think. No, it has to do with a culture, a mentality. If you want to look at it another way, spirit. And most spirits hate Adam. All of they all hate Adam. They hate Adam's bloodline. And they cross racial lines. So it's not even a racial thing like you would think. Like I said, the idiots can't choose what meat suit that they're born in. They don't get to choose that. It's pretty much random as far as things go, as far as your human minds would think of. But like I said, you're pretty much elements of a work in progress, so to speak. You were just kind of meant to be at this moment in time, but you pretty much act like you're nothing. Just random hatred, random acts, random statements of you where you are. Me too, by the way, but a difference though. Whole different life. I mean, but you're not alone in that. You're not really alone in that shit. And besides, returned hate is fucked up hate. You could never withstand the hate that could be returned. You can. And we know it, especially source knows. You can't withstand it. You can only get angrier and angrier and angrier. That's all you can. I mean, have you actually thought this shit through? Have you thought it through? And don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to change anything here, and neither am I trying to stop anything. No, actually, things are happening just as they were presumed. I'm saying save your fucking self here. I mean, it could be irrelevant if when you hear things like all you have to do is keep being you. That has to fuck you up, cause you go right out there and the response is you still be you. You're too finicky, too fucking finicky. First you think this, then you think that, then you think this, then you think that, and then you start to make. Man, I don't even think you think anymore. I just think that you lurch from one position to the next without very much analytical thinking. I think you're way too fucking emotional. In fact, I know you are, and nothing cares about that shit. Absolutely nothing cares. Do you know where you are? Do you know really where you are at this moment in time? You do realize that neither your forefathers or your forefathers or your fathers or your grandfathers ever dreamed of this. You do understand it, right? You do understand that whatever it is speaking right now, and I'm not saying this from a position of arrogance, because actually, in many ways, I like to be fucking harmless. I love being harmless. You know, I'm the type I have sit next to people, and they so full of spirits that they don't want there. They are aware that they're there, and I take them from them. I say, give them to me. You know what it feels like? Dread, loathsomeness, a weight in my stomach and in my chest. It dissipates soon enough. And then, generally speaking, they start crying. I don't do it often. It's a rare thing. But I would rather be doing that kind of shit rather than waging war with your ass. But however, if war is necessary, then then the type of war must be so fucking malicious that we need not worry about your revenge or your retaliation. So before we get there, the politicians have to do something here. They have to make a choice here. They have to do some rearranging here. I keep saying how many of us have to die before you finally get it. I I don't feel like I'm hunted, but I know hunted when I see it. I also know organized when I see it. I also know looking the other way when I see it. I also know no. understandings, either spoken or unspoken. And by the way, some things out here are clearly spooked that shouldn't be spooked. So you put all that together, and it leads where it leads. And right now, it's leading to to your politicians who have done absolutely nothing for you up on this up up until this point, except get you murdered, get you killed. As they've lost power as a party, and they're losing power now as a party, as per seat. It doesn't really matter politically because they've never helped you. I'm only saying everyone has to wake up here and understand that we've already been separated. We've always been separated from you. We've always been separated from this world. We can't walk like you. We can't talk like you. We can't think like you. We are an ancient people, ancient, like thousands of years old. We go back to Adam. You are the newcomers. Let me tell you a real short story here. You want to make us African. Let's just start right there. And this is, I'm not saying everyone, but let's just start right there. We're not African. Some of us were already here. But let's talk about the ones that were involved in the transatlantic slave trade. They weren't African either. Now, let's go down the rabbit's hole here. Spiritual rabbit's hole, a biblical rabbit's hole, okay? There is the children of Shem and the children of Ham. Okay? Now, blacks and blacks. The children of Ham would be the Africans. The children of Shem would be Adam's children. Okay? As it evolved. Now, there was a war. Israel, the real one, had no peace when they wasn't busy arguing with God. Oftentimes, they were often at war or running for the freaking lives because the next king of their enemy had remembered what they did to the last king or something like that. Man. It all plays out. At any rate, there at this particular time that they were about to set stage to go war with the Romans. And God said no. They were too numerous, they were too strong. Too numerous and too strong. So rather than go to war with them, I'm gonna need you to go into that land, what you would call today Africa. Okay? So in comes these peculiar people. Yeah. They imagine coming into a culture that you are at a more advanced thing. And then you start to isolate yourself because you just don't fit in like them. Okay? I mean, you don't fit in with them. Now, the natives started hating, really hating, because being an ancient people, and they went to building shit, growing shit, doing shit beyond not the ability, but the understanding and insight of the natives around them. In other words, they got envious and they got jealous. Now, they went to war with Israel in Africa. They skirmished here, a skirmish there. Now, guess who they would bump into? Today's Romans, the Europeans. I think it was the Hamadi tribe. I could be wrong about the tribe, but they said, look, we didn't fought these people. They ain't going nowhere. All right. It turns out they hit pretty goddamn hard. And so the Europeans said, well, hey, we can help you out. You know that fire stick? Yeah, you got that thing that you call the fire stick, meaning guns. I can give you these guns, but we're gonna need some slaves. So we're gonna need you to facilitate. You getting it now? They wasn't selling Africans. They were selling us. Today we will be termed foreigners in Africa, as we were at that time. I hope that provides a little understanding and further on to what I was speaking of earlier. Now, politically, ain't but one way out of this: self-determination, separations, and reparations. There is no other way. There ain't. The only other way is complete submission of the black man, which he's never gonna do in the face of his God now. Really? Stop it. You re- He don't have to have faith anymore. He knows. So you think that he's gonna submit? Well, anyway, that's I was about to go off on a different tangent. That's never gonna happen. Okay? You can forget about that. Okay? It's not gonna be. And that's the only other option. That's the only other option. It doesn't matter how many more that's murdered made him the violator. It's quite frankly too late for that. You you do understand why, right? Because scripture already tells us that in this time these things would be. And that's what you're up against. Everything that you are doing is foretold and written specifically for this time, the book of Revelation, which is where you're living at, like it or not. Enjoy the rest of your night. I am Source. I am 7. I am 1.